The air was thick with tension, the kind that clings to the skin before a storm. In the vast expanse of the southern Great Plains, a question lingered: could a single battle truly alter the course of history? The Great Plains had witnessed countless struggles, but few moments carried the same weight, the same promise of change, as the looming clash at Blanco Canyon in 1871. Here, at the heart of Comancheria, the dreams of conquest would collide with a fierce determination to defend sacred lands. What unfolded would open a door that had long remained closed, a battle that would shape destinies and rewrite the future of an entire region. For the first time, the mighty Comanche lords of the southern plains tasted defeat on the soil they had long called their own. As the echoes of battle faded, a heavy silence settled, marking the beginning of their decline. Once fierce rulers of these lands, the Comanche now faced a future where their power dwindled with each passing season. As the relentless winds of change swept across the plains they fought to protect. The beginning of the campaign, first invasion into Comancheria, the dawn crept slowly over Salt Creek Prairie in May 1871, bathing the vast plains in a soft golden glow. The wagon train creaked forward, wheels groaning, as travelers exchanged quiet words and hopeful glances. The air was still too still. From the tall grasses, unseen eyes watched, waiting. Then, a war cry piercing and wild split the calm like a lightning strike. In a heartbeat, the peaceful dawn turned to chaos. Over 100 Kiowa warriors, with Comanche allies, burst from the grass, faces streaked with fierce war paint, eyes blazing with purpose. Horses thundered, hooves pounding the earth like war drums. Arrows hissed through the air, gunshots rang out, sharp and desperate. Dust rose in choking clouds, swallowing men and wagons alike. Screams of terror mixed with the warriors' defiant cries. In mere moments, 7 men lay still, the earth beneath them stained deep red. The attack ended as swiftly as it began, leaving only silence and ashes on the wind, a brutal reminder that mercy was a stranger on the frontier. Word of the massacre swept across the plains like wildfire. Around flickering campfires and dusty town squares, fear and outrage simmered, but it was Chief Satan Ta's bold declaration that struck the hardest. Tall and unyielding, his voice rang out, the point us government broke its promises. This is our answer. His words echoed far and wide, a defiant drumbeat signaling war. In Washington, Satanta's claim landed like a thunderclap. This wasn't just defiance, it was a direct challenge. Determined to stamp out resistance, the U.S. government planned a bold strike into the heart of Comancheria. The stage was set for a battle that would reshape the southern plains. The autumn winds whispered of war. By late September 1871, Colonel Ranald S. Mackenzie, known for his relentless determination, and Lieutenant Robert Goldthwait Carter, a sharp-eyed officer of the 4th Cavalry Regiment, led a formidable force, 8 companies of cavalry, 2 companies of infantry, and 20 Tonkawa scouts, fierce trackers with old grudges. Their target, the Cohati Comanche, led by the rising warrior Quanah Parker, whose cunning tactics and fearless leadership were fast becoming legend. The cavalry lined up at the edge of the unforgiving Llano Estacado, dust swirling at the horses' hooves. This was no ordinary campaign. The endless plains stretched before them, silent and watchful. Blanco Canyon, a natural fortress of winding passages and towering cliffs, lay ahead, a place of strength for the Comanche, drawn from the land itself. The air buzzed with tension, thick and electric, like the moment before a thunderstorm. The soldiers pressed on, knowing the silence would soon be shattered by war cries and gunfire. The final confrontation loomed, a test of strategy, survival, and the will to claim the southern plains. The night raid and ambush at Blanco Canyon. The night was eerily quiet, with only the distant howl of coyotes breaking the stillness. The U.S., Army's camp lay deep in Blanco Canyon, soldiers weary and unaware of the storm about to descend. Hidden among the shadows, Quanah Parker watched with sharp eyes. He knew this land, its secrets, its power. The army depended on their horses, and without them, they were as good as trapped. The air felt heavy, as if the land itself was holding its breath. In that quiet dark, with the canyon walls looming like silent giants, destiny was about to unfold in a way no one could have predicted. As the moon disappeared behind drifting clouds, a silent signal passed among the Comanche warriors. Over 100 figures melted out of the darkness, swift and ghost-like. They moved with the grace of predators, the night their ally. Not a sound, only the soft thump of hooves and the faint rustle of leather. In mere moments, chaos erupted. Horses and mules bolted in fear, driven by the warriors' skillful hands. The soldiers, caught between sleep and confusion, stumbled out of their tents too late, their lifeline to survival gone. When dawn broke, the harsh reality sank in. Stranded in the unforgiving terrain of Blanco Canyon, the soldiers faced the sun's relentless heat by day and bone-chilling cold by night. With their mobility crippled, every step became a struggle, and the once confident march into Comancheria had turned into a desperate fight to survive. Quanah Parker's cunning plan had worked perfectly, a single night raid that shifted the balance of power and left the army vulnerable and exposed. The determination in Lieutenant Carter's eyes was unshakable. He refused to let the Comanche slip away with the stolen herd. With the sun barely rising over the canyon walls, he handpicked his best men and led them into the rugged depths of Blanco Canyon. Every hoofbeat echoed with urgency. Every glance shared between soldiers carried the weight of what lay ahead. But deep in the canyon, Quanah Parker watched and waited. He knew they would come. With a strategist's mind and a warrior's instinct, Quanah had turned the canyon's winding paths and towering cliffs into a perfect trap. The Comanche warriors blended into the rocky terrain, their presence hidden by silence and shadows. As Carter's patrol edged closer to what seemed like a quiet village, the ambush exploded with terrifying precision. Arrows and gunfire shattered the stillness. The canyon came alive with the roar of battle. Smoke and dust filled the air as Carter's men scrambled for cover. In the chaos, a sudden, deep rumble echoed. A massive boulder, dislodged from above, thundered down the cliffside. Carter didn't have time to react. The rock slammed into his leg, crushing it beneath its weight. The pain was blinding, but Carter gritted his teeth, refusing to cry out. His men rushed to his side, urging him to retreat. But Carter shook his head. Gritting through the agony, he raised his pistol and shouted commands. "Hold the line. Reinforcements are coming." His refusal to leave the battlefield lit a fire in his soldiers' hearts. Wounded but unyielding, Carter became a symbol of defiance. They fought harder, shoulder to shoulder, determined not to give an inch until help arrived. The battle raged on, the canyon echoing with gunfire, war cries, and the relentless struggle for survival. The unforgiving land and nature's intervention. After the nighttime ambush, Quanah Parker and the Comanche didn't just retreat, they vanished with skill. Guided by Quanah's sharp tactics, they wove a maze of twisting trails through rugged terrain, looping back, disappearing into rocky outcrops, and circling dense brush. To Mackenzie's Tonkawa scouts, it was like chasing shadows. Each path seemed promising only to fade away. The Comanche had turned the open plains into a labyrinth, proving Quanah's brilliance lay not only in battle but also in disappearing without a trace when it mattered most. As Mackenzie pushed his weary troops closer to what he believed would be a decisive confrontation, nature had other plans. The sky darkened without warning, and the air grew heavy with the promise of something fierce. Out of nowhere, an unexpected northern storm rolled in, a brutal weather phenomenon unique to the Great Plains. What started as a chilly breeze turned into a vicious force. The temperature plunged below freezing within hours, each gust of wind biting into exposed skin like tiny needles. Bitter winds howled across the plains, whipping snow and sleet so thick it felt like a white curtain had fallen over the world. Visibility dropped to almost nothing. The soldiers staggered forward, shielding their faces, while horses snorted and stumbled in the blinding snow. Frostbite gnawed at fingers and toes. Lips turned blue, and the steady march slowed to a crawl. Men who had braved battles now fought to stay on their feet, their breaths coming out in ragged, frosty gasps. Hypothermia became a deadly shadow trailing them with every step. The cold didn't just sting, it crushed hope, turning what should have been a march to victory into a desperate struggle for survival. The Great Plains had delivered its own warning. Out here, nature was the most ruthless enemy of all. Mackenzie felt the decision gnaw at him like the biting cold. Winds howled. Snow stung his face, and his frostbitten men trudged on with hollow eyes. After a long pause, he clenched his jaw and gave the order, "Halt." The word hung in the freezing air, heavy with defeat. Meanwhile, hidden by the storm's icy veil, Quanah Parker glided through the whiteout like a ghost. His people followed closely, their tracks quickly swallowed by the snow. Using the storm as cover, they vanished into the vast expanse, leaving behind only silence and swirling snow. The end of the campaign, lessons from failure finally. On November 17, 1871, the campaign ended with quiet disappointment. Mackenzie's forces had endured a long, exhausting pursuit, only to scatter a small group of Comanche. One soldier had died, several horses were lost, and the main goal remained unmet. The Comanche still roamed free, refusing reservation life. Victory had slipped away, and the land stayed untamed, just as before. Yet, the Blanco Canyon campaign became a significant milestone. For the first time, the U.S. Army had pushed into the heart of Comancheria, forcing the Comanche to abandon their livelihood and face a harsh winter. Despite the Army's tactical failure, the confrontation at Blanco Canyon revealed much about the resilience of the Comanche and the brilliance of Quanah Parker. Parker's leadership, knowledge of the land, and guerrilla tactics ensured that the Comanche lived to fight another day. The lessons learned by Colonel Mackenzie during this harsh campaign, however, would later prove crucial in future campaigns against the Comanche, eventually leading to their final surrender.